beautiful friends. So today we are going to start creating a new mini album. This one is going to be a Constantina album. Is that how you call it? It's one that kind of goes all the way through one side, and then as you get to the back it goes to the other side. I think that's what it's called. We're going to go through this in more detail in just a second. I will be using my own paper collection for this, my Feathers and Arrows digital paper collection. It is available in my Etsy shop if you would like to check out the whole collection. I will link that video at the end of this video and in the description box below, so you can check out the whole collection. I'm really quite proud of it. So I'm just going to go over the materials, and then I will kind of show you the basis of the album, and then we'll get going. So materials wise, you will of course need a paper trimmer. You will need your scoreboard with a scoring tool and a bone folder. You will need some score tape and or a ATG tape runner. If you prefer, you could do all of the gluing with actual wet adhesive. I prefer score tape. Sometimes I might go score tape and wet adhesive, so completely your choice. And then you will need some scissors and a magnet, or magnets. So I use 10mm by 1mm disc magnets. These babies are really, really nice and strong. And then you will need your cardstock. I used about 40 sheets of white cardstock. In the album that I'm going to show you, the basis of the album, I created it first in black, but I'm going to do this one in white. You will need at least 2 sheets of 12 by 12. The rest you can do in 8.5 by 11. Yeah, there's only 2 pieces, the parts that we wrap the covers in, that need to be at least 12 inches long. If you just have 12 by 12, you can use that for the whole thing. Then we'll need some chipboard. I have a medium weight chipboard that is about maybe 2mm thick. I prefer to double that up, so I usually glue 2 sheets together and then cut my covers to the size that I want them to be. So a heavyweight chipboard, I like at least like 4 or 5mm thick is what I prefer. You will need a Tyvek envelope, or because I use the strips. Hello, Zuri. Of course you can't. We can't have a video without Zuri, can we? So I will be cutting the Tyvek envelope into strips and using that to help put the album together. Optionally, some distress ink and an ink blender. I like to ink my edges. I just like the way it looks. You don't have to do that. That is completely optional. And then you'll need whatever embellishments you would like to use. I've got a couple wire dream catchers that I made that I will be using as embellishments in this album. If you'd like to see how I made these, I do have a video on my YouTube channel of making these, so you can check that out. That will also be in the description box below. And then I've got a few other embellishments that I'm probably going to use. I've got these really pretty feathers and some positivity stickers. So I've just got a few different things that I'm probably going to use. I haven't decided which ones I'm going to use yet. I kind of figure that out as I go. And then I've also got all of the digital papers that I created. I used a bunch of these alcohol ink backgrounds that I made as the backgrounds of the papers. I used this blue one quite a few times. So some of these I might cut apart and maybe do some die cuts with them, that kind of thing. I haven't decided quite what I'm going to do with them, but I'm going to use them somehow, maybe in the pockets. So if you'd like to see how I did these, it was a simple video. It was just finger painting with alcohol inks. It's one of my favorite things to do. I just love alcohol inks. So if you'd like to see that video, I will put that in the description box as well. Okay, so I'm going to get all of these out of my way, and then I will quickly show you the basis of the album, and then we'll get crafting. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly go through the album. This is the prototype. This is the one that I made when I was just kind of figuring everything out. So it's not decorated or embellished at all, and the one that I will be making now is in white instead of black. But I just wanted to quickly show you what it did. So the first page does that. And there's no magnets or anything on this. We'll be adding a whole bunch of swing tabs, etc. to make it fancy. So that's that page. And then page 2 has an insert in this pocket, and then this opens up, and then that opens up. And this piece in the pocket essentially closes, locks the pocket closed, and then it repeats again. Okay, so that's that same page, and then again the pocket page, just going a different direction. That same, so the patterns repeat 3 times. Okay, and then one more of the pocket page, and then it continues going this direction, and now we've got 2 new page designs. That goes like that. And then the whole thing opens up, and then these 2 both open like this, and then the other side does the same thing, only the opposite way, and then they both open up in the center, and then those 2 pages repeat 2 more times. Okay, so that is the basis of our album. From the top it looks like that. And then we'll be putting ribbon on this side and ribbon on this side so that the sides kind of open separately. Okay, so to begin, we are going to cut 6 pieces that are 6 1/4 by 11. Okay, so I've got 6 pieces here that measure 6 1/4 by 11. And we're going to score each one of those on the 11-inch side. And we're going to score each of them at 3/4 and 1 1/8 on the 11-inch side. So do that to all 6 of them. Of them. You can put your scoreboard away for just a sec. And now I'm going to get you to cut 7 pieces of chipboard that are 1/4 inch thick by 6 1/4. So 6 1/4 by 1/4 inch. Okay, and we are going to put these pieces of chipboard on the mountain side. So when you make an indent, or when you score a piece of cardstock, the indented side is called the valley. The raised edge side is called the mountain. Okay, so we're going to adhere those pieces of chipboard right in that gusset on the mountain side, just like that. Okay, so you can either use score tape or wet adhesive for this step. It's totally your choice. I'm going to use some score tape, and then we're going to cover them with pieces of Tyvek. So I'm just going to put a strip of score tape on each of those little strips of chipboard. Okay, and then each of these is going to go in that little gusset. Okay, so right in between, it should just fit. Okay, just like that. Do that to each one. Okay, and you'll have one strip left over. We're going to use that with the covers in a little bit, so just set that aside. Okay, so once you have all 6 of those with the little piece of chipboard there, now we're going to cover them in Tyvek. So if you haven't already, cut some strips of Tyvek. I have mine cut, I think, to 1 3/4, something like that. As long as it covers a little bit on either side of the chipboard, you're great. And mine is black on one side, so I've just put the adhesive on the black side because I want the white side to be showing so it's not super visible. And I'm just going to remove my score tape backing and place my Tyvek over top of where that piece of chipboard is. So you'll need 7 pieces of Tyvek that are 6 1/4 by somewhere between 1.5 inches to 1 3/4 inches, so that it will look like that. If you have, I have a little bit sticking out that side there, so I'm just going to take some scissors and trim that off. You don't want anything sticking over the side. And then I've got a little bit sticking out this side too, so just make sure that you can't see anything on the opposite side. So get all of your pieces to that point. I seem to have cut my chipboard pieces just a smidge long. They're all looking just a tiny bit too long. And really kind of tuck it into that piece of chipboard there. I tend to use my nail, or you could use the bone folder and kind of just get into that crease there and make sure it's really in there. I don't think I did that with this one. And this ensures that the chipboard will stay where you want it and just makes it a little bit neater looking. I think I might just trim all of my pieces of Tyvek a little bit before I even put them on, because they all seem to be a smidge too long. So these little pieces of chipboard are kind of going to act as the spacers in between our pages, because we're not doing a regular binding system, right? So these are going to act as our spacers so that we can embellish our pages and have room for them to grow a little bit. I think this might be the first time that I've ever actually made an album like this. I've never done I feel like, I'm not sure if I'm saying the right word, Constantine? An accordion album? That sounds better. Is it an accordion album? I don't know the technical term. I'm going with that. Let's go with accordion album. Alright, 2 more to go. Okay, so once you've got all 6 of your pages to this point where they've got the Tyvek over top of the score lines with the chipboard in between, we can fold our score lines. So we put this all on the mountain side, and then this is the valley side, so we're folding these in like this. So it will look like that. Okay, so those are the, what do you call them, the indents. So we're going to fold away from the indent. Okay, just give it a good crease so that each one will look like that. And that Tyvek there will help so that this part, because it's going to be getting a lot of stress because this is the part that's going to be moving to turn the page, and this will help strengthen that so that it doesn't tear. Okay, so once we've got all of them to this point, then we can start to put our pages together. So we're going to do this by creating an accordion. So I'm going to connect them back to back, going like this. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So take our first one. We're going to have to put some score tape or wet adhesive right here, and it's going to adhere to the back side of that first page. So it will look like that. Okay, so let's put some score tape right here, or some wet adhesive. I think I'm going to do both. So the score tape makes it so it instantly sticks and stays in place, but the wet adhesive adds quite a bit of strength to it, because score tape can eventually kind of break down, and your pieces can unadhere, you know, come apart. But if you add a little bit of glue on top of the score tape, come on glue, just a little line of glue, it will make it so they stay put longer. Okay, so you've got the first piece like this. This second piece is going to adhere right to this side. So do this in whatever way is easiest for you. Just make sure that it is even with the end. You can lay it flat and do it this way. It should just end up looking like that. So here's the first one, here's the second one. Now the third is going to do the same thing, but over on this side. Okay, so we're going to add some adhesive onto this part again. And remove the backing, add a tiny bit of wet adhesive. You want your album to stand the test of time and put pictures in it that you can embarrass your children with later in life. Okay, so this is going to go right on this far left edge. Make sure it's even. Okay, so now you've got this, and we're just going to keep we're just going to keep adding pieces in this way until we get to the end. Accordioning? Is that a word? Am I making up a word? We're going to keep going accordion style. There we go. Let's do that. I don't know if the word accordion can be made into a verb. Accordioning. So this one's going to go right onto the right side. I actually feel like laying it down is probably the easiest way to go, because then you know it's going to be straight, but you do it in whichever manner is the easiest for you. Okay, so far so good. 2 more to go. Okay, so if you are laying it down, open it like this, and this last one that you adhered is going to go on top, and it's going to meet up with the score line but not go over the score line of the last one. Okay, so this is what we've got so far. And then our final one is going to go right there. Okay, let's do that final one. Okay, so again, if you're doing it flat, which it could be easier, so have it so that the adhesive is up, and so we're going to basically just be placing it down like this. So this is our last page that we just adhered, so open it up and adhere it down, making sure not to cover the score line, but just go right up to it. Okay, so that is the basis of our pages. All right, so we've got 3 gussets over here, we've got 2 over here. This last one, our very first page that still has this open part here, this is where our cover is going to go. Okay, so let's set this aside for just a sec, and we're going to work on the covers real quick. Alright, so for the covers, you're going to need 2 pieces of chipboard that are 6 3/4 by 10. Okay, 2 of those. And remember, like I said, I've taken 2 of my, oh, it's not really gonna let me show you, but just trust me. This is 2 pieces of my thinner chipboard that I like adhered together. Okay, so 2 fairly sturdy pieces of chipboard. And then I've got 2 pieces of cardstock. These are the 2 that I was saying that have to be 12 inches long by 8.5. The reason you want it to be 12 inches long is that you do want an inch on either side to wrap it. If you don't have 12 by 12 cardstock, if you only have 8.5 by 11, you can make it work. It'll just be only about a half an inch on either side. It'll only be about that much, and you have just enough to wrap it around. It's not ideal, but you can make it work. So don't panic, and you don't have to go out and buy 12 by 12 inch cardstock if you don't have any. You can make it work with 8.5 by 11. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put adhesive all over the back side of both my pieces of chipboard. I'm going to add score tape just around the edge, and then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to add some wet adhesive as well. Okay, so I'm going to remove all these backings. I don't know why I bothered to put this little piece here. I just didn't want to waste it. Okay, and then some wet adhesive. And we're going to put it just smack dab in the center of our piece of cardstock. Do the same with the other one. I tend to only use the wet adhesive in combination with the score tape, mostly because I'm too impatient to fully let the wet adhesive dry on its own. It just takes too long, and I always end up lifting it up before it's actually completely dry and adhered. So the score tape in combination with it adheres it quick enough that it allows time for the wet adhesive to actually dry properly without coming undone. Okay, so put this right down in the center, or as close to center as you can. Oh. Ish. Okay, now that you're there, we are going to put score tape all the way around the outside edges. Sorry, I know it's white on white, so it might be hard to see, but hopefully you're getting it. And we're going to do the same with the other one. Okay, fantastic. And now we are going to miter the corners of these. So I'm going to like cut in at an angle until I reach the point of the chipboard. And then I'm going to turn my scissors and cut out at an angle so that it looks like that. So I'm going to do that on all 4 corners. On both pieces. I can see that I did not get mine completely, oops, completely even, but that's okay. Perfection is highly overrated. I don't think anything I do is absolutely perfect. That's what makes it artistic. Is the like minor imperfections, right? That's what I tell myself anyway. So now that you've got your piece, both pieces to this way, to this point, we're gonna kind of train it. So we're gonna kind of just like bend it like this, and basically we're showing the paper who's boss and which way we want it to go. Now we're gonna remove the backing of one side. Again, I'm gonna do the adding a little bit of wet adhesive. You don't have to do this, like, please know that it's optional. Especially since you have to watch me shake a glue bottle forever. And then we're just gonna kind of roll it over, kind of press down in the center, and then move out to the ends. Turn her around, and we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. Okay, and now on the corners, just so you don't have any sharp corners, I usually take my scissors and just kind of like push in the very corner, just so nothing pokes out, so you don't get a sharp edge where the corners meet. Okay. That's just a little personal preference thing. It's not the end of the world if you don't do that at all. I just like to have as neat a corner as I can. Do the same with the other side. Okay, so there is one part of your cover, and now we're going to do the exact same thing, the exact same process with this half. So one will be the back cover, obviously, and one will be the front cover. Gonna push in those little corner bits there. That wasn't the neatest corner, but it's okay, I can live with it. Okay, and there is your second cover. Okay, so now we can add our covers onto our pages. So on the front, where we have this little gussety flap thing, we're going to again do the same thing. We're going to add, just like we were adding another page, except this time it's going to be a cover. And then the back side we're going to do a little bit differently. I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter which is the front and which is the back at this point in time, so you that's for you to decide. You can do it whichever way. I tend to put things on backwards all the time. I made a gorgeous polymer clay book cover for a girlfriend of mine. And when I put it onto her book, I put it on both backwards and upside down so that she now has to use the book from back to front instead of front to back if she wants it to be upright. So that's a classic move of mine, putting things on upside down. I've done it multiple times. So this kind of album is perfect for me, where there is no specific front and back. Okay, so there is your first cover attached to your first page. Okay, on the opposite side, where we just have like a blank space, we need to add a hinge with a gusset on it. So remember how we had that one last piece of chipboard? You're going to need to cut one piece that will act as a hinge, and it should be 1 7/8 by 6 1/4. Okay, and grab your scoreboard for a second, and we are going to score it at 3/4 and 1 1/8, just like we did on those the 11-inch side of our pages. Okay, because it's going to do the exact same job. So we're going to do the same thing with it. On the mountain side, we are going to add that little piece of chipboard that is 6 1/4 by 1/4 inch. So that's going to go on the mountain side. We're going to put our final piece of Tyvek, assuming that you had cut 7. Pretty sure that I did say 7. I hope so. If not, please cut one more piece of Tyvek. And we're going to cover that. Just like this. Okay, trim off any excess. Yours might be perfect. Okay, so we've got one that looks like that. Now we're literally just going to fold those over. So now you have a piece that looks like that. So you want the second cover to be attached on the open side of that page. So we're going to add, again, adding score tape, this time on either side of our little gusset that has the chipboard inside it. Okay, so the Tyvek's on this side, score tape's on that side, making sure not to have any adhesive going over those score lines, just up to them, right? And now we're going to remove the backing and add a little bit of wet adhesive. And this is going to adhere. You want the opening. Okay, the opening's right here. So you want the opening of it to be towards the left. All right, so this is going to adhere right to the edge of this piece, like this. Make sure it's even. Sorry, sometimes I turn things just to make it easier for me to adhere things and maneuver things. Okay, so it's folded like this. And now we're going to remove this, add some wet adhesive, and add our other cover. Now the covers are a little bit bigger than the pages themselves, obviously. So make sure when you are adhering this cover that it is perfectly even with the other one. So whichever way makes it easier for you to do this, just want to make sure that it is even. Might stand it up. Then I know that they're going to be even. Alright, so you want them to be level on the top and the bottom. That's what I'm trying to get at. Okay, so there is the basis for your album. So there's going to be 4 gussets on one side and then 3 on the other side. So the way an album usually sits, you'll have the spine be a little bit wider than the opening part of the album. So I like this to be the front with the 4 gussets on the left hand side. You don't have to do it that way at all. You can completely have it however you like, but this is the way I like it to sit. All right, so there we go. That is part 1 of our tutorial. We've got everything, we've got our whole basis done, and in part 2 we will add all of our elements to our pages. So very good beginning, and I will see you in the part 2, which will be coming sometime in the next couple days, so watch for that. And in the meantime, go watch all those other videos that I talked about earlier. Alright, love you guys. Hope you're having an incredible day. I will see you soon. Bye!